Imagine this, July 9th, 2006, Berlin, the Olympic Stadium, 110 minutes into the biggest game on the planet. 1 billion people are watching, and the greatest footballer of his generation is about to end his career with a headbutt. Welcome back to Untold Football Stories, where we go beyond the highlights and into the stories that shaped football forever. If you haven't subscribed yet, you're about to understand why you should, because tonight, we're telling the story of Zinedine Zidane, the boy from the concrete jungle, the artist, the volcano, and the night he chose fury over glory. Before the Ballon d'Or, before the World Cups, and the Champions League nights, there was La Castellane, a housing project in the northern suburbs of Marseille. Gray concrete towers, broken elevators, unemployment, crime, poverty. This is where Smail and Malika Zidane, immigrants from the Kabyle region of Algeria, raised 5 children, and one of them would become the most elegant footballer the world has ever seen. Young Zinedine, Yazid to his family, didn't have a pitch. He had a car park. He didn't have boots. He had bare feet and a ball that was more tape than leather. But even then, even on that cracked concrete, everyone who saw him play said the same thing. This kid doesn't belong here. This kid belongs to the world. At 14, Zidane left La Castellane for AS Cannes, a boy from the projects, surrounded by the luxury of the French Riviera. He made his first team debut at 17. Then came Bordeaux, where he announced himself to European football. Then Juventus came calling. And Italy is where Zidane became Zidane. Under Marcello Lippi in Turin, the raw genius was sculpted into a master. The fitness, the tactical awareness, the ability to control a game with a single touch. At Juventus, he won 2 Serie A titles, reached 2 Champions League finals, and in 1998, he won the Ballon d'Or. But the real coronation was about to come. July 12, 1998, Stade de France, Paris, France versus Brazil in the World Cup final. The whole nation holding its breath. Brazil, the greatest footballing nation on earth, with Ronaldo, Rivaldo, Cafu. Against France, a country that had never won a World Cup. And then, in the 27th minute, a corner from the left, Zidane rises. His bald head meets the ball. The net shakes. France lead. And just before halftime, another corner, another header, another goal. The same head, the same man. 2 goals, 2 headers. In a World Cup final, Zinedine Zidane, the son of Algerian immigrants, had just given France the greatest night in its sporting history. Final score, France 3, Brazil 0. That night, 1 million people flooded the Champs-Élysées. His face was projected onto the Arc de Triomphe, and a new word entered the French language. They didn't say hero. They didn't say champion. They said Zizou. He moved to Real Madrid for a world record fee, 75 million euros. The Galacticos era, Figo, Ronaldo, Beckham, Roberto Carlos. But the jewel in the crown was Zidane. May 15, 2002, Hampden Park, Glasgow. Champions League final, Real Madrid versus Bayer Leverkusen. And in the 44th minute, Roberto Carlos sends in a looping cross from the left. The ball floats. It seems to hang in the air forever. And Zidane doesn't chest it, doesn't head it. He swivels his entire body and strikes a left foot volley that screams into the top corner. A goal that belongs in a museum. A Frenchman playing for a Spanish club against a German team in Scotland. It was football as pure art, and the man who painted it had fire in his veins. But here's the part they don't always tell you. Zidane was not just elegance. Zidane was rage. Throughout his career, he collected 14 red cards. 14. In 1998, during that magical World Cup, He stomped on a Saudi Arabian player. He was suspended for 2 games. In 2000, he headbutted Jochen Kientz of Hamburg in a Champions League match. In 2004, he was sent off twice in a single month for Zidane. This wasn't a saint who lost his temper once. This was a genius who carried a volcano inside him. In the same fire that made him brilliant, also made him dangerous. His old teammate Mikel Silvestre put it simply, he was very introverted, but you have to realize, he had already collected 10 red cards in his career before Berlin. There were times where he'd lose it, but sometimes, a lot of geniuses lose their head. By 2006, Zidane had already announced his retirement from international football. After Euro 2004, he said goodbye to the national team. He was 32. He was done. But France was struggling. They scraped through World Cup qualifying, and the coach, Raymond Domenech, made a desperate phone call. He asked Zidane to come back. For one last tournament, one last dance. Zidane said yes, and what followed was the greatest farewell tour football has ever seen. Against Spain in the round of 16, masterclass. Against Brazil in the quarter-final, he was the best player on the pitch against Ronaldinho, Kaká, and Ronaldo. Against Portugal in the semi-final, he scored the winning penalty. At 34 years old, Zinedine Zidane was dragging France to the World Cup final. Almost single-handedly. July 9, 2006, Berlin's Olympiastadion. 69,000 people, 1 billion watching at home. France versus Italy. Zidane versus Lippi. His old manager at Juventus. Zidane versus Buffon, his old teammate. This was a World Cup final made of personal stories. And everyone knew this was the last 90 minutes of Zinedine Zidane's career. After tonight, the boots would be hung up forever. After tonight, the artist would put down his brush. The only question was, would the final masterpiece be a World Cup trophy or something else entirely? 7 minutes in, Florent Malouda bursts into the penalty area. Materazzi, yes, that Materazzi, brings him down. Penalty to France. Zidane places the ball on the spot. Buffon, the best goalkeeper in the world, stands on the line. 69,000 people hold their breath. And Zidane chips it. A Panenka. In the 7th minute of a World Cup final, the ball floats up, hits the underside of the crossbar, bounces down, and crosses the line. Goal. The audacity, the arrogance, the sheer ice-cold nerve. Who does this? Who chips a penalty in a World Cup final against Gianluigi Buffon? Zinedine Zidane does. Because Zinedine Zidane is not like other footballers. But Materazzi wasn't done, not even close. In the 19th minute, Andrea Pirlo swings a corner into the box, and Materazzi, the same man who gave away the penalty, rises above Patrick Vieira and hammers a header past Barthez. 1-1. Italy were back. And from that moment, they started to dominate. Gattuso pressed, Cannavaro blocked, Pirlo orchestrated, Tony hit the bar with a header. Italy were squeezing the life out of France. Zidane was being marked out of the game. Every time he received the ball within 40 meters of goal, Gattuso was on him like a shadow. Normal time ended. 1-1. Extra time began. And the clock started ticking towards the final moments of Zidane's career. In the 104th minute, Zidane produced one last moment of magic. He received a cross from Sagnol on the right and powered a header towards the top corner. Buffon, at full stretch, somehow palmed it over the bar. Zidane screamed in frustration. That was supposed to be the ending. That header was supposed to be the final goal of his career, the fairy tale ending. But the football gods had a different script. 110th minute. Italy have cleared the ball upfield. Zidane and Materazzi are walking side by side. Materazzi's hand touches Zidane's back. Words are exchanged. Zidane keeps walking. More words. Zidane slows down. Here's what Materazzi later admitted. Zidane had said, "If you want my shirt, I'll give it to you after the match." And Materazzi replied, "No, I'd prefer your sister." Zidane stopped. He turned. He walked back towards Materazzi, and in front of 1 billion people, he lowered his head and drove it straight into Materazzi's chest. The referee didn't see it. This was 2006. There was no VAR. But the fourth official, Luis Medina Cantalejo, saw everything. Through the headset, he told referee Horacio Elizondo, "Dreadful. Zidane's headbutt was dreadful." 2 minutes of chaos. Italian players surrounded the referee. French players stood frozen. The entire stadium didn't understand what had happened. And then, the red card. Zidane nodded. He touched the referee's shoulder. He said something no one could hear. Then he turned and walked past the Italian bench, past the coaches, past the FIFA officials, and right past the World Cup trophy, gleaming under the floodlights on its golden pedestal. He didn't look at it. He didn't touch it. He just walked past it, into the tunnel, into the darkness, into retirement. On the touchline, Raymond Domenech, France's manager, performed a furious, sarcastic, slow clap. In the stands, Jacques Chirac sat in stunned silence. And across France, an entire nation asked the same question. Why? France now had to face penalties. Without their captain, without their leader, without their best penalty taker. David Trezeguet, the man who scored the golden goal to win Euro 2000, stepped up for the second kick. He struck it hard. Too hard. The ball crashed against the crossbar, bounced down, and stayed out. The cruelest echo of Zidane's Panenka, which had bounced down and gone in. Italy scored all 5 of theirs: Pirlo, Materazzi, De Rossi, Del Piero, Grosso. Clinical, cold, ruthless. Italy 5, France 3. Italy were world champions. Materazzi, the man who was headbutted, had scored a goal, provoked the sending off, and converted his penalty. The villain of the piece walked away with the trophy. And Zidane? Well, despite the red card, despite the headbutt, despite everything, he was awarded the Golden Ball, the tournament's best player, because even his worst moment couldn't erase his brilliance. That's how good he was. Silvestri later described what happened in the dressing room. He was already there before us. He had taken his shower. He apologized. I didn't know why he was apologizing. It was only when I went to the media area that I saw the replay and I thought, wow. But what can you say? You're not going to tell off God. Willy Sagnol didn't speak to Zidane for 2 years after that night. He couldn't forgive him. Other teammates understood. Some were furious. Some were heartbroken. But everyone agreed on one thing. Without Zidane, they would never have reached that final in the first place. Years later, a journalist asked Zidane if he would apologize to Materazzi. His answer was absolute. I would rather die than apologize to that man. In the days after Berlin, something strange happened. France didn't turn against Zidane. They embraced him. Zizou on t'aime, Zizou, we love you, was sprayed across the Arc de Triomphe. President Chirac publicly declared his love and admiration. A sculpture of the headbutt, called coup de tête, was exhibited at the Centre Pompidou. The headbutt became more than a moment of madness. It became a cultural symbol of passion, of honor, of a man who chose his family over a trophy. Or was it self-destruction? Was it pride? Was it weakness disguised as strength? Football doesn't give you clean endings. Football doesn't care about your retirement plan. Football is chaos wrapped in 90 minutes. And sometimes, the most human moment in the most important game is the one that breaks everything. Here's the thing about Zidane that nobody talks about. He wasn't a man who lost control once. He was a man who spent his entire career walking a tightrope between genius and madness. 14 red cards, 14. The same intensity that allowed him to chip a Panenka past Buffon in the 7th minute of a World Cup final is the same intensity that made him headbutt a man in the 110th. You can't separate the artist from the volcano. You can't have the elegance without the eruption. The roulette turns and the volleyed goals and the headed doubles in finals. They all came from the same source, the same fire, the same fury that burned in Castellane when he was a boy with no boots on cracked concrete. Like some people say Zidane cost France the World Cup. Maybe he did, but France wouldn't have been there without him. He gave them the dream, and then he burned it down. And somehow, that's the most Zidane thing of all. Zinedine Zidane, born in La Castellane, raised on concrete, World Cup winner, European champion, Champions League hero, Ballon d'Or, 3-time FIFA World Player of the Year, and the man who ended his career with a headbutt in a World Cup final. His last touch as a footballer wasn't the ball, it was the chest of Marco Materazzi. And that is the story they'll tell forever. If this story moved you, subscribe, hit the bell, and leave a comment. Was Zidane right to defend his honor? Or did he throw away immortality? Let us know. Because next week, we're going somewhere even darker. If you haven't seen our previous episodes, the miracle of Istanbul and the Munich air disaster are waiting for you. Click the screen now. And remember, this is Untold Football Stories, where the real stories live.